Anyway, this book is called Dream Catcher in the Rye, spelled Wry, which fits with Tiffany Midge's smart aleck sense of humor. She's an awesome lady. All right, it says here The Dream Catcher in the Rye. This is Tiffany Midge bitingly hilarious collection of essays written during the COVID-19 pandemic. It builds upon the critical acclaim of her earlier book, Bury My Heart at Chuck E. Cheese's. A Standing Rock Sioux citizen. I thought she was Home Papa. Well, anyway, keep reading. A Standing Rock Sioux citizen, Midge offers up her unique satire about the foibles of politics, consumerism, world affairs, pandemic anxieties, and other subjects from the pandemic years of 2020 through 2023. The Dreamcatcher in the Rye brims with insight considering pig heart transplants, wedding crashing grizzly bears, truffle snuffling dogs, bison petting tourists, and a plethora of other animal and wildlife hijinks, not to mention Wienermobiles, the controversial Mount Rushmore meeting Eyes Cody in a parade, Elizabeth Warren's quaint family lore, and Buffy Sainte-Marie. Midge brilliantly unpacks her observations and day to day concerns through the lens of an urban raised Lakota living in the West, a writer of poetry, op eds, church bulletins, fridge magnets, and Twitter posts who is allergic to horses and most outdoor recreation, especially for berry picking, and the occasional romp through a dewy meadow. Turning over the colonizer's society and culture for some good old Native American roasting, Midge informs as she entertains, gleaming with wisdom from the incongruities of daily life with a much needed dose of indigenous common sense. Ooh, I like it already. So, yeah, she is a citizen of the Standing Rock Sioux Nation. She says she was raised by wolves in the Pacific Northwest. But, yeah, right. She's a columnist for High Country News, formerly the Indian Country Today. Her work has appeared in the New Yorker, Brooklyn, Rail, McSweeney's, and more. Okay, we already talked about all that stuff. Huh. She is she aspires to be the distinguished writer in residence for Seattle's Space Needle and considers herself her contribution to humanity to be her sparkly personality. Aw, she's so sweet. All right, let's go. You know what? I should read the dedication. It says, dedicated to my mother. This one time when I was a girl, I was hanging out on the Tasty Freeze with Patsy and Johnny Poopsack. We were chattering away and gossiping about every person who happened to be walking by. In a sudden flash of moral introspection, Johnny points out that we were acting mean and petty and that we should stop bad mouthing everybody. So, just like that, all our chatter and fun came to an abrupt stop, and we just sat in utter silence for a long, long time with nothing to say. Alita Smith, my mom. Some people choose radical love. I choose incredulity and radical sarcasm. Tiffany Midge. Hey, dude, can you not have your spirit animal hump my leg? Thanks. Trevino brings plenty. Yep, that sounds like Tiffany, all right. So let me see. She even has a little, oh, how cute. A little, she signed it for me. See? It says to Victor, so glad you came to Spearfish, South Dakota. So wonderful to see you. Hugs and kisses, Tiffany Midge. All right, so let's read a little bit. I'm going to see if I can find something really cool. I'm just gonna crack it open to a random page. Well, I'm gonna go through the contents first. The Dreamcatcher in the Rye, I'm Not a Cat, America's Funniest House Cat Videos. What's Schadenfreude have to do with it? My very first literary hero, Bitter Homes and Gardens, decolonizing my diet. Happy Darth Vader Day, resolving and letting go of the past. Madam Secretary in the Cabinet. Wow. You know what? I want to read the Madam Secretary. No, no, no. I'm going to read because I'm such a dang nerd. I'm going to read Happy Darth Vader Day, which is on page 16. Let's do it. Bitter Homes and Gardens. There it is. Happy Darth Vader Day. Resolving and letting go of the past. A few years ago, an old boyfriend, in quotes, from high school reconnected with me on Facebook. I'll call him Brandon, in quotes, because everyone was named Brandon back in the 80s. Brandon was kind of a jerk to me back in high school. So I sent him a photo of a random guy and wrote in my message, "Thanks for reconnecting. A lot has happened since we last saw each other. I'd like you to meet our son. His name is Greg. I guess I probably should have told you that you have a son sooner, but now that I know where you live, you'll be getting served for 28 years of back child support." Oh man, that felt good. A relief. Of course, the 28 years of child support was quite exaggerated, but that just made the situation funnier. The idea that he was too freaked out to do the math. As Father's Day approaches, I find myself experiencing waves of that familiar and not uncommon sense of dread and trepidation. What could I possibly have against this day of observance for fatherhood? Hey, it isn't as if I had Darth Vader for a dad, which must have royally sucked for Luke and Leia. No, I struggle with Father's Day because it stirs up old hurts and resentments. Hurts and resentments that might explain why I held the box of my father's cremains hostage in a storage unit for 14 years. Or 16. See, I can't even keep track of the year he died. There's probably some kind of divine law I've been violating all this time by keeping my father's ashes in a permanent timeout. I figure it can't be too awful a transgression. He wasn't a spiritual person. And what's a few years in a storage unit compared to eternity? Sometimes I think I should have his cremains made into a garden stepping stone, possibly in the likeness of Darth Vader. And honestly, I would love a garden gnome. My father resembled a gnome, actually, with a beard and round belly, but he was much taller and not particularly simple or nor jolly. It's nice that so many options are available for cremains memorabilia. A tree urn would be lovely. That's when the cremains are treated so they grow into a tree. A tree! From a red maple to a dogwood to a Japanese flowering cherry. There is a whole menu to choose from, even an indoor plant option. Imagine my father's remains sitting on the credenza in our living room, reincarnated as a bonsai tree. That sounds great. Looking over the website, I paused when I got to the Q&A portion, where it explains the following: in order to turn ashes into a tree, you will first need to be cremated. I assumed I would also need to be first dead. Not that I'm splitting hairs about it. My high school boyfriend, Brandon, might not have known He fathered our make believe son, Greg. So the fact that he hadn't paid a dime in child support in 28 years isn't his fault. I can be lenient on this point. But my father, the future bonsai tree, the future garden gnome, the future cold storage receptacle, he was not always good to my mom or us kids. I don't mean to air my dirty laundry, but he once wrote out a check to my mom that said I had to sell a ram for this. Oh, the audacity. She was so embarrassed taking the check to the bank and seeing the puzzlement across the teller's face. That's the thing about dads, or moms, or kids even. We're jerks sometimes, aren't we? My dad was, sometimes. We contain multitudes. Will this be the year I finally make amends, rescue my father's cremains from storage purgatory, and remake him into a plucky, jolly gnome? Maybe. So there it is. You know what? I'm going to read one more because this is so cool. There's something probably about, let me see, idiot invasion, outhouse fail. This is all, she wrote this, of course, during COVID. So there's a lot of time for her to write and ponder what's in the news. I had COVID 19 and spent the week in the hospital. I wanted to read the one about pretendians because that's one of her near and dear to her heart. Toad lickers, bear wrestlers, and beard fanciers, armed bots, HOV Grinch, number sure, rescue by owl. Wow, I could go crazy with this book. Good, good drones, coyote living, baby bears, white whales, and freaky looking fanged fish. Back scratching bears, seismic singers. I should start doing the same thing that she's doing. American Indian dirt. How to scream inside your heart. 50 Shades of Buckskin. Satire as a decolonizing tool. Missing Oregon senators shape shifting into wild horses. Wow. Da, da, da. Tourists tossed like a Caesar salad by free range emo goth in Yellowstone Park. SHITS pants. Page 191. Oh, there's always stories about tourists trying to pet the fluffy cows and the hijinks that result. Let's do page 205. Considering Idolatry, Eyes Cody, and Buffy Sainte-Marie. I've recently been reminded of the motion picture classic, The Ten Commandments. My mom used to watch it every year when it aired on Easter. Yul Brynner, as Ramses, was such a menacing brute. The rock star Moses, played by matinee idol Charlton Heston, and the ever pining after Moses Nefertari, played by Anne Baxter, so reminiscent of Scarlett O'Hara's burning flame for her beloved Ashley. The most powerful scene in the Ten Commandments, when Moses returns from the mountain, brings to mind the devotion to Buffy Sainte-Marie, who, as it turns out, appears to be a white lady from Massachusetts who charaded as an Indian for 60 years and made millions of dollars. I'm reminded of the Ten Commandments and how vengeful Moses became when he discovered all the people that he had freed from slavery dancing and worshiping a golden calf when they were supposed to be worshiping just the one God. I'll take it a step further by interpreting their transgressions not as forsaking God, but worshiping false idols. Yeah, that's bad, so don't do that. My dad used to tell me something similar. He'd seem to approve of the tiger beat posters of teen idols I tacked on the walls of my room, He would remind me that idols have feet of clay and will eventually crumble and fall if you become too overly worshipful. I must have gushed excessively over my role models or been hurt and disappointed with my high expectations for people, and he wanted to prepare me, to protect me, adjust my expectations. My first brush with celebrity, which coincidentally relates to pretendians, was when I was 7 or 8 years old and attending a parade in Wolf Point, Montana, for the Fort Peck Poplar Indian Days 4th of July celebration. A big fancy convertible cruised down the street and Eyes Cody, yes, that crying guy in the TV commercials, was tossing out Tootsie Pops. With a bunch of other Indian kids, I ran after the car to shake his hand, to be brushed by his proverbial robe, to receive a piece of candy like a communion wafer accepted while receiving absolution or something. It was the most singularly exciting thing to ever happen in my young life. We know now that Iron Eyes Cody was just a fake that Hollywood producers like to put in their movies. The fake Indians were always more desirable representations of Native Americans than actual Native Americans. People agree to this remains true even today. That's why pretendianism is so pervasive. Even Indians, and that's what's hardest of all to figure out, prefer white people for representing us instead of real Indians. And pretendians don't even care about Indians, not really. They will attach themselves to us, be our best friends, fawn over us. They're so charming and attentive, mirroring us, etc. It's easy to get roped in. They find us fascinating. It's alluring until the day they don't consider us fascinating as much as find us delicious. Or else they're removing our skins like jam gum and sewing suits out of us to parade around and dance to goodbye horses, because that's what they're really after. You think that you're having a great time with this person who gets all your jokes and wants to listen to every boring thought that goes through your head, but really they've got you trapped in a well, sending down lotion to rub on his skin, and you're too busy being admired to notice. And all the time they're miming us, scanning and recording us like Predator to later mimic us and co opt our stories, our manner, our very thoughts. It's all quite sci fi, trust me, just like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Or they're creating an association with us for credibility. We become their beard, their cover. And through us, they can access community, families, cultural events, and by showing their friendships and associations on social media and wherever else, it helps them to appear more native. And often they'll marry their prey, the 100% seal of approval, and have Indian kids. Well, that's a sure way into the tribe. But man, their Indian beards, husbands and wives, that's plain and simple narcissistic abuse. Some pretendians will worm their way into whole families, gaining access, trust by bribing them with gifts, money, and social clout. They're master manipulators. Every Indian knows someone like this. Almost every Indian has had or currently has a pretendian leeching off of them. Why, some of my best friends are pretendians, an adage may go. So, yeah, I was up close and personal with Iron Eyes Cody. Fortunately, he didn't play any Vulcan tricks on me, kidnap me, or take me away to Hollywood in his big fancy Cadillac. But I probably would have jumped in for a ride if he had invited me to. He had all that candy, and he was on TV, and I still hadn't learned the lesson about not worshiping any false idols. You shall not make for yourselves an idol, nor any image of anything that is in the heavens above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Boom. So that's pretty much enough reading for now because I've already gone for 24 minutes and I got to post this up on YouTube and edit it because I spent too much time leafing through the pages. So thank you so much for your kind attention. You guys have an awesome rest of the week. Talk later.